Welcome back, class. My name is Mr. Betts, and this is Memestory, where we learn about an important historical event using the internet's greatest resource, meme videos and other funny clips. Today's topic, the Korean War. Yes, sandwiched in between powerhouse conflicts like World War II and Vietnam, we often refer to the Korean War as the Forgotten War. This is what most people do when you ask them to talk about the Korean War.
Tonight we would like to honor the people who have...
First, a little backstory. Korea has spent a lot of its history being controlled by other countries, most notably China and Japan. And in 1910, it was forcibly annexed as part of a growing Japanese empire.
800-588-2300 Empire.
Today.
But then World War II breaks out, Japan eventually loses, and Korea is split in half along the 38th parallel with a Soviet-backed North Korea and an American-backed South Korea with the intention of it getting back on its feet and eventually reuniting. Yeah, sure.
It's not funny. It's not funny, okay?
Okay, you're right. Cut to June 25th, 1950, when North Korea, led by Kim Il-sung and probably but definitely supported by the Soviets, surprise attacks South Korea. They quickly take the South Korean capital of Seoul and everything short of Busan. The South Korean troops were clearly overmatched and undertrained.
Sir, look at the ground! Yes, sir! Hey, look up! Yes, sir! Look at the ground! Yes, sir! Look up! Yes, sir! Look at your own face!
Despite this technically being a civil war, US President Harry Truman felt that he had to act. See, this was the beginning of the Cold War and containment was the strategy. China had just turned red, and if South Korea did too, what other nation would get sucked in? This was enough to convince the newly formed UN to respond to the conflict in what they called a police action. Normally, Soviet Russia, a permanent member of the Security Council, would have blocked such a move, but they were boycotting UN meetings for a different reason and were notably absent.
Don't they know I'm busy spoiling myself?
Why weren't you at elf practice?
So the first troops, mainly US, arrived and it didn't go that well. Post-World War II budget cuts had left them very undersupplied and honestly a little bit soft after soaking up occupation and rebuilding duty in Japan.
Oh my god. Girl, come see this. They got a ramen noodle exhibit. You know that's your favorite. Be careful, children. That's a lot of sodium.
Enter General Douglas MacArthur, World War II hero of the Pacific Theater. He led UN troops on a daring and successful amphibious landing at North Korean-held Incheon, pushing the North Koreans back past the 38th parallel. Dude was a real Lafayette Savion. You don't know what that is?
Girl, guess what they got, girl? Guess what? Le Face 5 years.
He also loved being at war and convinced Truman to let him invade North Korea, saying that the fighting would be easy and the troops would be home by Christmas. I hope you realize by now that anytime someone says the troops will be home by Christmas, Christmas winds up being very disappointing.
Oh, Christmas.
Jesus Christ.
The UN troops nearly make it to the Yalu River, you know, the border between North Korea and China, which prompts the Chinese to join the fight. Seoul once again falls to the northern communists as UN forces are forced to retreat back past the 38th parallel.
Why are you running? Why are you running?
But UN forces regain that territory, and by 1951, it just becomes a long, deadly stalemate around the 38th parallel. Truman wants to use negotiations in order to bring an end to the conflict, while MacArthur had a different approach in mind. So Truman sacks MacArthur, and the stalemate goes on for another 2 years until a ceasefire is signed. Barely any land changes hands, and since the Korean armistice agreement is not a peace treaty, technically the conflict still goes on today. I'm not sure how we can blame him, but...
Thanks, Obama.
So why is the Korean War so important? Well, first we have to remember the world at the time. This showed that the newly formed United Nations wasn't just a League of Nations sequel. This organization would act. It had teeth.
Guess what? The girls still want me.
Are you sure about that?
We saw the implementation of National Security Council Paper 68, or NSC 68, which solidified the policy of containment and quadrupled the size of the military budget. I could bore you with expenditures, but instead just...
Look at this graph.
And it also set the stage for what the two Koreas have become today. South Korea has become an economic and technological powerhouse, one of the 4 Asian tigers whose roar can be heard worldwide. Whereas North Korea has become possibly the most restrictive and oppressive country on earth, currently ruled by the dictator, just the chairman of the Workers' Party of Korea, beloved and supreme commander, Kim Jong-un.
I was wondering if I could eat that.
No, sir, that's an island.
It looks like a cookie.
So there you have it, the memestory of the Korean War. Hey, if you liked my Teddy Roosevelt big stick shirt, you can get it from my Redbubble store by clicking here or the link down in the description. And let me know what you think Teddy Roosevelt would think about the Korean War, about America becoming the world's policeman. If you like this video, click the button that lets me know, leave a comment down below, and make sure you subscribe because there's a lot to learn, but we're gonna learn it together. Be safe, and I'll see you next time.